Week 9, as with Week 8, requires setting the FTC map base to onslaught size before loading in the maps. This week's missions use the Devoured World Theatre of War, Psychic Blackout, where you roll 3 dice instead of 2 for psychic tests, discarding one of the highest rolled results, except Tyranids. Digestive Spores. At the end of each battle round, roll a d6 for each wounded model. On a 2 or 1, they suffer 1 mortal wound. 2 additional stratagems are available for this theatre of war. One only benefits Tyranids, but making objective markers work as 3-inch synapse units, definitely not worth the CP cost. The other, Fractured Environment for 1 CP, allows you to replace the battlefield twist with one you pick, or roll to generate an extra one. I do not like the way this stratagem is written, as whoever uses it second will have an advantage. So I suggest either you agree with your opponent not to use it, or only use it in a way where you generate extra battlefield twists, or roll off to determine who has to declare whether they will use it first, after the initial battlefield twist roll, of course, has been rolled and generated. The narrative for the final week being, the final assault begins. The behemoth itself fights you as well as the enemy forces here. It attacks your units physically and mentally. I actually chose the standard mission for the final week for 2 players to be the actual final mission, and the Firestorm Specialist being still making your way to the final chamber. The Specialist mission, Firestorm, is from the core rulebook, and as such is in the FTC map base for loading in the deployment zones. The map represents the chamber rooms of the bioship as you're making your way deeper through the bioship. So this is a chamber wall, these are support pillars. So this is a chamber wall. And the openings represent airlock doorways. Of course, I don't have a piece of terrain that disappears to use for those openings. So they're just considered the whole wall and the openings as dense cover, causing a hit penalty when shooting through. Or even when shooting through the chamber walls themselves with artillery. You don't need line of sight. Because these walls are considered so thick, it's going to make it harder for you to actually shoot through with your artillery to hit the target through those very thick, massive ship's chamber walls. In regards to the mission specifics, each player rolls 6d6 at the start of their command phase. For each 6, they can select one enemy unit and inflict d3 mortal wounds, unless the target is Titanic or a squad of more than 10 models, in which case 3 mortal wounds are inflicted. Units that contain a character model with 9 or less wounds cannot be targeted if other targets are available. Points are scored at the end of the battle for the combined power ratings of all enemy units destroyed during the battle. Warlord, character, vehicle, monster units, and units that have merged during the battle that have been destroyed are worth double their power ratings in points. Units that were added to your army during the battle and subsequently destroyed, power levels should also be added to the tally. This is all added together, divide by 3, rounding up for the final score. The standard mission in the final week requires the objective markers of the FTC map base to be removed before loading in. As it is a Beyond the Velvet mission, I had to set up the deployment zones and objective markers myself. This is not yet included in the FTC map base. Duplicate areas because I already had the Devour World card on the table. This standard mission, Valley of Dread, has a special rule for morale tests, where a 5+ always fails. From the second round on, in your command phase, 5 points is scored for controlling one or more objective markers, 5 points for controlling both of the gamma markers, which is this one and this one, 5 points for controlling both of the beta markers, those two, and 10 points for controlling both the alpha markers, those two along the furthest apart, starting in your deployment zones. The map itself represents the final chamber of the ship, the central intelligence circuitry, the brain room of the bioship, with roof pillars and synapse nodes and other brain circuitry being visible within this central chamber. So I hope everyone has a good week and good games, and I hope everyone enjoyed this campaign. I'll be doing one more video, which will be a review of my thoughts on how the Crusade has gone, and how I believe it could be done better in the future. Thank you all.